Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of creating a tier list for Split Second. I am Hyperonto12, and this is going to be my updated tier list from the previous video, and this is going to also be my final video before I reach official hiatus. So, um, after so many videos of doing the dice roll challenge, I think I have finally regained some more honest opinions, updated from my previous experience about each and every single car. So without further ado, let's get started. Now before I start explaining each car, I have divided each of them by point categories. So there are going to be 5 categories. Speed, as in the combination of top speed and acceleration, how fast a car can go in one race. Handling, how good or bad the car can corner. Control is how good the car can maintain stability while racing, regardless of when it's turning or going straight, if it gets hit by a power play. Value is based on how soon you unlock the car and how much I think it's worth it. And then the ultimate one is favor, how much I favor a car, how much I like driving that car. And each of the categories is going to be divided into 5 points, so that means the maximum is going to be a total of 25. So here we go. Starting off with the Cobretti 455 GT. This is honestly my favorite of the 3 beginner cars. It's one of the very first ones that you get to start with, even in the the training before the very first race. And honestly, this Cobretti 455 is actually really decently good, but it's really good in terms of starting in the beginning of the game. For speed, I give it a 3 out of 5. Its top speed is not that good, but the acceleration is the best of the 3. The next one is handling. I give it a 4 out of 5 because this car can corner really well. It's just the drifting is not as good. It's not as convenient when it comes to drifting around corners. It drifts wide, and it's also easy to lose speed on that part. For control, it is very stable. Absolutely stable. It's easy to recover from drifting, so I give it a 5 out of 5. Value, of course, is the beginner car, and you can really beat a lot of the first half of the races with that car, so definitely a 5. And because it's a beginner car and it cannot really keep up with the later races, I give it a 3 in terms of how much I favor driving that car. So in total, it makes 20 out of 25 points, which is actually really good. And where I positioned it on the tier list is I put it in B tier. Next up, we have the Cobretti 530 GTS. This car is the very first amongst the fastest of the fastest. This one has a really high score that I would like to present to you. This car, I give it a 5 out of 5 in terms of speed. 7 bars, both speed and acceleration. It's amazing when you race this car. It's very easy to keep up with the elite racers even in the final elite race. For handling, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because unlike some other half of the cars in the fastest ones of the game, it corners a bit wider and the drifting is not as good. For control though, I also give it a 4 because sometimes it's a bit easy for it to lose stability after trying to do a shallow turn. But it actually recovers pretty decently when it comes to getting hit by a power play though. For value, because it is the very first car of the fastest cars in the game, I definitely give it a 5. And what I favor, I definitely give it a 5 as well. It's one of my absolute favorites. I really enjoy driving. This is a car that I also beat in the This is a car that I also used in the final elite race on my first full-on campaign, just a one try run through. So this car gets a total of 23 out of 25 points, which I put it in S tier. And also, I almost forgot, I also have its official ranking out of all the cars that I have put in the list. B tier, Cobretti 455 GT, I actually put it as 13th place, the 13th best car in the game. Cobretti 530 GTS, number 3. Keep that in mind. Next up, another champion, the Cobretti Cascade, my childhood favorite. This car is pretty much almost perfect in all aspects except only one category. Let's get started. 4 out of 5 in terms of top speed. It's not as fast as the fastest cars in the game, which is okay. But quartering, handling, I give it a 5 out of 5. Its drift may not be the best, but almost the best. And it also handles turns without drifting really well as well. For stability or control, I also give it a 5. It has a quite good of a grip when it comes to steering, quartering, as well as dodging power plays. In terms of value, it comes right before the Cobretti 530 GTS, and based on how well it drives, I definitely give the value of a 5 out of 5 as well. You know my answer for how much I favor, absolute 5 out of 5. This creates a total of 24 out of 25 points, and it belongs to S tier. And ranking, I have that as number 2 out of the 27 cars available in the game. Aside from the DLC cars, which I put it in F tier, but hold on. I can add a new row. Alright, continuing on. Next car we have on the list is the Cobretti GT 500. Sorry, a moment of silence as I'm hesitant to explain about this car. I don't know what makes this car good. The looks, maybe. Really long nose, Viper theme. No. In my opinion, this is the worst car in the game. Absolutely the worst. For speed, it's only a 3. Its acceleration is okay, but its speed, it can't even compete with even the cars that can be unlocked earlier. Absolutely not. Control. If you saw me facing the helicopter in Airstrike, it was terrible. It's hard to dodge. It's easy to lose grip. Well, actually, I'm pretty much explaining on both terms. Drifting is horrible. It always drifts too wide. It can't corner well at all. Overall, handling and control, I both give them 2 out of 5 points. Value, you literally unlock it after the Cobretti Vertex, Hanzo GT, and Hanzo Bayonet R, which all 3 of them are better overall than the Cobretti GT 500. I don't know why it is unlocked in the middle of the car selection. It should have been unlocked a lot earlier than that. So value is only 2 out of 5. How much I favor? I don't favor it at all. 1 out of 5. Total of 10 out of 25 points. This is the F tier I go to. And yes, it is last place on my list. It's 27th out of 27 cars. No further comment. Next up, Cobretti GT RS. Now this, I say, is a founding father of funsies. It's really good overall, and pretty much up to the first half or the third quarter of the chapters of the game before it becomes a bit too slow for that. This car I used to beat a lot of elite races, and it drives phenomenal. Almost phenomenal, I should say. Speed, I give it a 3 because it's still on the slower end. I believe, if I remember, 6 bars of acceleration, 3 bars of speed, but that definitely steps up a lot more than the previous car that is unlocked. Handling, very good on corners. Absolutely good on corners. Even without hitting the gas, it can turn very well. Drifting is average. It's not too wide, it's not too sharp, it's completely average. Control. I also give it a 5. I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong car. Handling, 5 out of 5. Control, 5 out of 5. Although it might be a bit of a struggle to recover from a drift, but most of the times I get it out of it so easily. So that's a 5. Value, I definitely give it a 5. It is the first car that is full on fast on the track, in my opinion. Just overall fast on the track. So that's definitely a 5. In terms of how I favor it works really well all the way to the third quarter of the chapters until it starts to get a bit too slow. So I give it a 3. That makes a total of 21 out of 25 points, which is still really good. That's one of the first champions, I would say. But I already have a lot of rooms occupied for S tier cars. Instead, this will go in A tier. And where I rank it in 7th place, which is still really good. Next up, we have the Cobretti Iridium. This is the first car you unlock in the game, aside from the 3 beginners that you automatically start with. And it pretty much matches with the slower end of the vehicles. It's not too terrible, but of course it's not too good for the majority of the campaign either, so it's definitely on a bit of a lower end. I give it a 1 on speed, just like most of the starter cars, because it's got one of the slowest accelerations as well as a decent top speed for a beginner car. Control, I give it a 3. I'm sorry. Handling, I give it a 3. It doesn't corner that well, and drifting is quite average as well. Control, I also give it a 3 because this is one of the first cars that is quite easy to want to drift after even a light turn. That's the reason why I give it a 3. But value though, I still give it a 5. It's still an improvement from the 3 starter cars in terms of unlocking it, being the very first one to unlock. But I just don't really have as much interest in this car in terms of favor, so 2 out of 5. That makes it a total of 14 out of 25 points, and I have that position in D tier with a rank of 25th out of 27. Next up we have Cobretti Nero GT 400. Now I say this is one of the 2 kings of an average vehicle. This car is actually really good on every single average. So I'm gonna tell you the points. Speed, I give it a 3. Acceleration is not as good as a Cobretti GT RS, but it still maintains a really good speed wherever you go. 4 on the handling. Honestly, the drifting is really good for an average car. The cornering is actually quite good for a medium weight sedan as well. Not sedan, but medium weight vehicle. I give it a 5 on control. It's also one of the most stable cars I've ever driven. In terms of value though, it was actually unlocked after the Cobretti GT RS, but I favor the Cobretti GT RS more. I think the Cobretti GT RS is faster overall. So it's not as valuable as the Cobretti GT RS, this Nero GT 400 is. Where do I favor? I'm pretty mid on this car. It's actually still quite enjoyable to drive. I just don't drive it as frequently. So that makes a total of 19 out of 25 points, which is still quite good. This is on the average with the Cobretti 455 GT, but it's in a slight lower position. I have this ranked as 15th out of 27. Next up, we have the Cobretti Pursuit. This is one car that I call crazy. because for a medium weight coupe, it's actually quite insane how it drives. Speed, I give it a 5. It's almost as good and fast as the Cobretti 530 GTS. It's 6 bars, acceleration and speed. Um, I give it a 4 in terms of handling because it still likes to turn. Don't get me wrong. Drifting is a bit wide, but it still likes to drift, which in a good way. For the Cobretti Pursuit for control, however, I give it a 4 because based on its class, I feel like it's a less stable. Even though you can still control the drifting very well, it's still easy that it wants to lose traction and start drifting. But overall, it's still almost as controllable as one car I'm about to mention. In terms of value, though, it is unlocked after the Cobretti 530 GTS, which I feel like the 530 GTS is more valuable than the Pursuit. So I give it a 4. In terms of how I favor, I'm still average on interest in this car, but it's still quite fun to drive, so I still give it a 3. In terms of Cobretti Pursuit, I put it in A tier with a rank of 8th out of 27 with a total of 20 out of 25 points. Next, we have the one and only champion of this game, the Cobretti Slipstream. It's phenomenal on almost all aspects, just like the Cobretti Cascade. Let's talk speed. It's only got 3 bars of speed, but 8 bars of acceleration. That makes it still match for the fastest of the fast. 5 out of 5. Cornering. Handling. It's a drifter. It is a drift king. But in its own way. Not the term that I would class it though. Cornering without gas, it loves to turn. Drifting, it loves to drift. It still drifts really well on the corners, even though it's just a bit wider than the Cobretti Cascade. It's still a 5 out of 5. Control though, that is where it only gets a 4 out of 5 because it wants to drift. It loves to drift. It doesn't always like to get a grip when cornering at a wide corner with the gas continuously turned on. But that's fine. Value, it's one of the middle cars to unlock. You actually unlock it after, I believe, the Ryback Coyote, which steps up a plate by a whole lot. And you unlock it before the Cobretti Cascade as well, so that's definite 5. How I favor? Of course I do 5 out of 5. Come on, it's a champion. S tier, baby. 24 out of 25 points. Ranked first place on my list out of all 27 cars. I say this is the best car in the game. No more questions. Let's move on. Cobretti Vertex. This car is, I say, the founding father of the middle class fastest cars in the game. But I don't favor this car as much as the fastest of the fast, especially the Cobretti Slipstream. Cobretti Vertex, I give it a 4 in terms of speed. It's not as fast as the Cobretti Slipstream and those that are faster than it, but that's fine. It's pretty much similar speed as the Cobretti Cascade. Though, what really throws it off, though, are the handling and control. Handling, it corners really well, but the drift is not as good. It's easy to lose speed and it drifts a bit too wide on my end. But cornering without the gas is still quite averagely good. I wouldn't say it's as good as the Cobretti Slipstream, but at least as good as the Cobretti 530 GTS. But the control, it's really easy to drift and lose control of this car, honestly. It's really hard to dodge power plays with this one. So I give it a 2 out of 5. Value? It's a definite 5. You unlock it after the Cobretti Nero GT 400, and just like the shift between the Ryback Coyote and the Cobretti Slipstream, it's also another bang of a job when it comes to shifting from the Nero GT 400 to Vortex. So that's definite 5. But how I favor it, I'm not really fond with driving this car though, so I give it a 2 out of 5. This car finishes with 16 out of 25 points, and is being placed in C tier, rank 21 out of 27. Next up, we have the Ryback Bandit. This car, it's average. It's the second truck to unlock in the game. But I say it's a bit too slow though, even though it still has a higher stat than the Ryback Tornado, which I'm about to mention later. For speed, I give it a 2. It pretty much averages out a little bit faster than the Cobretti Iridium, but that's pretty much it. For handling, it's a 3. It doesn't corner that good, and it also drifts a bit wide, but it's okay. Control, I give it a 3. I'm sorry. I read the wrong points again. Handling, I give it a 2 out of 5, but with the same reason. Control, this time I give it a high score, a 4 out of 5, because it's a truck, and it's not that easy to lose control. Corners, it likes to, because it's a truck, it likes to slow down when cornering, before cornering, so that's still pretty good. Value, I give it a 4 because you still unlock it quite early. Probably just a few cars after the starters, which is totally fine, but I'm just not fond with driving this car. So in terms of favorite, I give it a 1 out of 5. It finishes with 13 out of 25 points, and I'm putting this in D tier behind Cobretti Iridium, ranked 26 out of 27. Next up, we have the Ryback Brawler. This car is quite underrated because it's a starter car. It's very slow in terms of acceleration and top speed, but it's one of the 3 drift kings. Its drifting is amazing. That is one reason why I can still catch up quite well with the elite racers, even on the last race. That's why some people on YouTube even showcase that this car still has the ability to beat the final elite race, which I totally admire that. I totally have respect for this car. But let's go through the stats. Ryback Brawler, I give it a 1 for speed and acceleration. No peer pressure, but of course, it's one of the beginner cars, so its speed and acceleration is going to be sluggish. Cornering, handling, 4 out of 5. The drift carries it. Cornering without drifting is average, which is totally fine. 5 out of 5 in terms of control. It knows when it wants to drift, when it wants to just maintain grip when driving. 5 out of 5 in terms of value, because it's a starter car, and it still works out really well like the Cobretti 455 GT. But in terms of favor, it's not good when it's not that good when it comes to facing the higher end races. I don't really drive it as often myself either, so it's a 2 out of 5. That makes a total of 17 out of 25 points. I put this car in C tier, but ahead of the Cobretti Vertex. Position 19 out of 27. Next up, we have another champion. If you remember seeing my season finale of Split Second, where I'm challenged to race a certain car assigned by the dice roller, it was that car, Ryback Coyote. After racing and winning that elite race, I have so many second thoughts on this car. And this point system will prove it. Speed, it's average. 3 out of 5. If I remember, I think it's 4 bars of acceleration, 5 bars of speed, which is completely average. That's fine. 5 out of 5. Cornering. Drift King. And I say this is the best Drift King. It loves to grip its corners. It loves to drift sharp. And it loves to drift anywhere, anytime. 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 on control. Just like the Ryback Brawler. It loves to maintain grip whenever you just steer without drifting. And you can drift on command easily. One of the best. Value. You unlock it before the Cobretti Slipstream. And you unlock it after the Ryback Thunder, which I will mention later on. In the middle, one of the most middle positions, in the middlemost position, you unlock the Ryback Coyote, and I say it's worth it. 5 out of 5. In terms of favoring this car, I don't drive it as often as the faster of the fast, but that's fine. 4 out of 5 is still good. Ryback Coyote, it finishes with 22 out of 25 points, placing 6th place out of 27. This is another S tier car. Alright, next up we have the Ryback Cyclone RS. This was one of the most controversial cars that I go through debating whether or not it's a good car or not. But on second thought, when I raced it in the Dice Roller Challenge, it was actually still pretty good. Even though I say out of the big 3 of the fastest cars, it's probably the worst of the big 3, but that's okay. It's still better than most of the other cars. Ryback Cyclone RS, I give it a 5 out of 5 in terms of speed. It's probably the fastest of the big 3. It's faster than the Cobretti 530 GTS with 1 bar higher in terms of speed stats, even though same acceleration. I give it a 5 out of 5 in terms of cornering. Cornering without drifting, without the gas, it's phenomenal. It's another one of those cars that loves to corner sharply. Drifting, it's not wide, it's not sharp, it's okay. It's not too bad, though it's still easy to lose speed, which I will get to in control. Control, I only give it a 3 out of 5 because just like the Cobretti Vertex, it's really easy to lose grip when even doing a shallow turn on the carb. But power play, it can still withstand decently, and when it comes to cornering without gas, it's still fine. 4 out of 5 in terms of value. I feel like the Ryback Cyclone RS should have been unlocked earlier than the Cobretti 530 GTS, but that's pretty much my opinion. How I favor though? I don't favor it as much as the Cobretti 530 GTS. So I give it a 3 out of 5. And that finishes with 20 out of 25 points. Ryback Cyclone RS, you move all the way up to A tier, position 11 out of 27. Next up we have the Ryback Firestorm, the last car to unlock in the game. I just don't see why. I mean, other people would think it's probably the best car in the game, but I just don't see the close resemblance to it at all. But I'll explain to you why. When I raced this car in this game, yes, speed is still phenomenal. 7 bars of acceleration, 6 bars of speed. That's slightly faster than the Cobretti Pursuit. That's a 5 out of 5. Ryback Firestorm for handling. This is where it gets a bit interesting. I give this one a 3 out of 5 in terms of cornering. Why? Cornering without gas nor drifting, just a regular gripped corner, it sucks. It favors drifting though. Drifting is a bit wide, but whenever you try to turn sharply, it still likes to follow your steering, which is okay. That's a 3 out of 5. Another reason why I gave the Firestorm a 5 out of 5 is even though it drifts wide, it likes to drift really fast. For control, I give it a 4 out of 5. It still likes to grip when cornering and stuff like that, but the weakness is recovering from the drift. It loves to keep on drifting, which is why I gave it a 4 out of 5. Value though, I just don't find it as worthy as the fast of the fast. That's a 3 out of 5. And then ultimately, where I favor it, I give it a 3 out of 5 because it's still fast. It's just not as favorable as the other of the fastest cars I like to drive. So that finishes with 18 out of 25 points. And I have that position in B tier. 17 out of 27 cars. Next up, we have the Ryback Mohawk. This is another one of the good average cars that is quite enjoyable to drive, but it's on the slower end. It doesn't really pique my interest as much in terms of using it on the later races. So Ryback Mohawk, in terms of stats wise, I give it a 2 in terms of speed. It's still on the slower end. 3 out of 5 in terms of handling because it drifts decently and it corners not as sharp, but it's fine. 3 out of 5 in terms of control because it still likes to keep on struggling to recover from the power plays, as well as control its drift a little bit more, if you know what I mean. In terms of value, I still give it a 5 because it's one of the earlier cars to unlock. And in terms of how much I favor it, I don't favor it as much as other cars, as I said. But it still finishes with 15 out of 25 points, which is okay. I put it in D tier, in a higher position than Cobretti Iridium. 24 out of 27. It's still an enjoyable car to drive, don't get me wrong. It's just, it's one of those cars that cannot compete as good with the higher end cars. Next up, we have the Ryback Thunder, the first monster truck of the game that you get to unlock. And honestly, it stands really well. I actually liked it a lot after shifting from my previous favorite before I unlocked it. Let's go over the stats. For speed, I give it a 3 out of 5. It's slow on the acceleration, but its top speed is quite good. 4 out of 5 in terms of cornering. It corners slow, but it likes to corner sharp. Drifting is not as good, but of course it's a monster truck. 5 out of 5 in terms of control. It's very immune to power plays. Let's just put it that way. And it's hard to lose control when it comes to trying to turn sharp with the gas on. 5 out of 5 in terms of value. You unlock it before the Ryback Coyote, and it already is a great shift from the lower class fast cars to the faster cars. Where I favor, I'm average on this car. When I raced in the elite race on what was going to be season 2, it's still a bit of a struggle, but overall I still enjoyed racing this car and dodging all those power plays. So 3 out of 5. That concludes with 20 out of 25 points. And I have that put in B tier. However, it goes in between the 455 and the Nero GT 400. I rank this as 14 out of 27. Next up, we have the Ryback Thunder, the last monster truck to unlock in the game. Definitely much better than the Ryback Thunder. This Ryback Titan, I gave it a 4 out of 5 on the speed because it has the same top speed as the Cobretti 530 GTS, yet it maintains the speed very well. Acceleration is 4 bars, which is 2 more than the Ryback Thunder. So that's 1 point higher in terms of speed than the Ryback Thunder. For the Ryback Titan, I give it a 4 out of 5 on cornering. Pretty much the same reason as the Ryback Thunder, but it actually likes to corner just a bit faster. 5 out of 5 in terms of control, even though it is a little bit more drifty, but drift is still controllable. Though, in terms of value, it should have been unlocked earlier than the Cobretti Cascade, probably even earlier than the Cobretti Slipstream. That's why I gave it only a 3 out of 5. But I give it a 4 out of 5 in terms of how much I favor. I absolutely enjoyed it on every single challenge I did in the dice rollers. So this one is actually going into A tier, rank 12 out of 27. And that is the final car of A tier before transitioning to B tier for the 455 GT. Next up we have the Ryback Tornado. This is another starter car. This is the third of the 3 starter cars. You won't be surprised, it's still slow, which I give it a 1 out of 5. It's just 1 bar faster than the Ryback Brawler. Acceleration is the same. I give it a 3 out of 5 in terms of cornering. Average. Drifting is okay. Cornering is okay. Average. Control, I give it a 5 out of 5. Just like the other 2 trucks, or 3 trucks I should say, it likes to slow down when cornering, and when it comes to drift, it likes to control its drift quite decently. And it still maintains its speed really well when drifting though. So that's a 5 out of 5 on control. Value, 5 out of 5 because it's a starter car. But of course I'm also not too fond with driving this car as the 455 GT, so 2 out of 5. That finishes with 16 out of 25 points. I put that in C tier with a rank of 22 out of 27. So this is supposed to be a DLC car, but because this tier list doesn't have the official Elite 440 Special, I decided to use this car. So I had huge second thoughts on this car, but negatively. Its speed is still good, 4 out of 5. However, it's the handling that makes it one of the worst. I only give it a 2 out of 5 because it cannot corner that well, and when it comes to drifting, it loves to drift. It loves to lose so much speed when drifting, but it just cannot drift sharp. Whenever I try to drift sharp on this car, I just spin out and go to a complete halt. If you remember watching me on one of the Dice Roller Challenge videos, that was my struggle. Though, what still had me give it a decent score for control. Actually, control I give it a 5 out of 5 because it's actually really durable, this car. And because of how much grip this has, it still controls really well without drifting. Value, I give it a 3. I feel like it should have been the first elite car to unlock, not the second. And because of the poor drift and the poor cornering, I never liked this car anymore. 1 out of 5. And that puts it in C tier though, with 15 out of 25 points, and I ranked it at 23 out of 27. And that is right before the Ryback Mohawk. Next we have the Elite Goliath. The toughest large size vehicle, the fastest large size vehicle, but acceleration though it's still weaker than the Ryback Titan, but that's fine. The Elite Goliath, I give it a 4 out of 5 in terms of speed. Top speed is almost full 100%, but the acceleration is what gives it away. I give it a 3 out of 5 in terms of cornering. Drifting, it doesn't really like to drift as much as the Ryback Titan. Cornering is just a bit wider though than the other 2 trucks. I give it a 5 on control because it's the strongest vehicle in the game, and it's hard to lose control on this car as well, unless you drift at command. Value though, I give it a 4 because it's the second to last car to unlock, and I feel like it's a bit sluggish in its position. How I favor is still average. I give it a 3, and that actually puts it in B tier in front of Ryback Firestorm with a position 16 out of 27. Here's another car I have so many mixed thoughts about. Elite GT12. I just noticed that this car is actually really good if you drive it right. It's actually overpowered, I should say, if you drive it right. 5 out of 5 on speed. 10 bars, 10 bars, both speed and acceleration. It's the fastest car in the game. 5 out of 5 on cornering. It has one of the best cornering abilities out of any car when I came to realization of how good this is. One tip that I want to give though for this car, don't drift. Just don't rely on drifting. Only corner with and without gas while maintaining your grip. And this car can be a total getaway. If you recall seeing one of my videos with this one. It's absolutely amazing without the drift. However, the drifting is what gave me a lower score. I gave it a 3 out of 5 on control. Because it maintains a great grip when cornering. However, when you drift this car, it's probably the weakest car in terms of drifting. It's very hard to dodge power plays with this car. It's very easy to crash after drifting, and it's just hard in general to recover from the drifting. I give it a 3 as well in terms of value, because this is the very last car to unlock in the game, and I feel like it's still not worth it. But if you drive it right, you can get away from all the players, which makes it a good ultimate vehicle to unlock. But to me, because of how weak the drifting is, the worth is not worth unlocking it last. But it's reasonable to see that it still unlocks last. How I favor it though, I'm starting to enjoy this car a lot more now. I give it a 4 out of 5 based on how often I can get away from the opponents even in the final elite race. Telling you this, sometimes I even have a 15% difference between first place and second place. Whether it's getting away from Raptor or Vixen. Absolutely phenomenal on that part. So, it actually finishes with 20 out of 25. And this actually ranks 10th out of 27, which is still a great position. Top 10. This goes to A tier. In front of the Ryback Cyclone RS. Ah yes, the champion, Vixen and Raptor's car. Elite S510. Very first car to unlock in the Elite series as well. And I say it's my favorite. Let's go over the stats. 4 out of 5. It's almost as fast as the Cobretti Slipstream, just 1 bar down on the acceleration. 5 out of 5 in terms of cornering. It also handles really well in terms of cornering, I kid you not. Though, 4 out of 5 in terms of control. It's still easy to, compared to the Cobretti Slipstream, it's still quite easy to lose a bit of a grip when doing wide corners with the gas at full throttle, but that's okay. For value though, I give it a 5. Very first elite car to unlock. My absolute favorite. Absolutely. However, I only give it a 4 out of 5 in terms of favor because I don't favor it as much as a Slipstream Cascade and the 530 GTS, but that still gives it a total of 22 out of 25 points, and that still belongs to S tier. However, ahead of the Ryback Coyote. 5th out of 27th. Next up we have the Hanzo Bayonet R. On to the Hanzo series. This car, I'm also just as disappointed in this one as the Cobretti Vertex, but still it is one of the founding fathers of the faster group of cars. Let's go over the stats. 4 out of 5, just like the Cobretti Vertex, but acceleration is just a bit better. 3 out of 5, just like the Cobretti Vertex. Its cornering and drifting is pretty much the same. Drifting is bad, but cornering is still okay. 3 out of 5 though on control. That means it's one step better than the Cobretti Vertex. It's a bit more grippy on the drift, even though it loses control just as much as the Vortex in wanting to drift. For value though, because it unlocks after the Cobretti Vertex and one car in between, I give it a 4 out of 5 instead of a 5 out of 5. Could have unlocked at the same time. When I favorite just as much as the Cobretti Vertex, 2 out of 5, which makes it finish with a total of 16 out of 25 points, just the same. However, I do like to put it in one position higher than the Vortex in C tier, ranking 20th out of 27. Hanzo FX350, the third of the fastest of the fast. Another champion. Second to last car to unlock. Let's go over the stats. 5 out of 5 speed. 5 out of 5 handling. Phenomenal cornering. Really sharp drift. 5 out of 5 in control. It maintains a perfect grip wherever you corner, and you drift by command. The only downside is, because it drifts sharper, recovery from a power play requires a shorter time before you crash. 4 out of 5 in terms of value though, because it's the second to last car to unlock, and it's just as good as the Cobretti 530 GTS, if not probably lower. And then how I favor it, I don't favor it as much as the Cobretti 530 GTS because of that combination of grip, drift, and cornering. It's not as flexible as the Cobretti 530 GTS, so that I give a 4, which finishes with a total of 23 out of 25 points. I put that ranking 4th of all 27 cars, which leaves it to S tier. 2 more cars left. Hanzo GT, the other drift king aside from the Ryback Brawler and the Ryback Coyote. Let's go over the stats. 3 out of 5 on speed. It's pretty much like the Cobretti GT RS. But it is faster in top speed, though a bit slower in acceleration. It has the same top speed as the Ryback Coyote, but the acceleration is lower. Cornering, Drift King, 5 out of 5. Though without drifting, it still corners pretty well for a middleweight car. Control though, it's a bit harder, in my opinion, to control the drift on the Hanzo GT than the Ryback Coyote. But overall, it still maintains a really good grip. So I give it a 4 out of 5. Value, 5 out of 5. This was one of the first cars I frequently used so often in my childhood. And the favor though, after I unlocked the newer cars, I started to lose interest in this car as well because it's a bit sluggish on its stats end, but that's okay. That still finishes with 20 out of 25 points. I have that ranked 9 out of 27. It goes to A tier between Elite GT12 and Cobretti Pursuit. Last but not least, we have the Hanzo Indus VAR. That's the second car you unlock in the game. And I say that's a pretty good step up from the Cobretti 455 GT. However, it is just a bit more squirrely. Let's look at the stats. 3 out of 5, just like the 455 GT. Cornering, I'll give it a 4 out of 5. Pretty much drifts and corners about the same as the 55 GT, but I say it corners a bit better during grip and drifts just a bit wider in terms of drifting. 3 out of 5 though in terms of control. I say it is a bit more squirrely than the 455 GT. It's easier to lose control. It's easier to lose grip when even cornering wide with gas. 5 out of 5 though in terms of value. It definitely drives faster than 455 GT, and it's the second car to unlock in this game. 3 out of 5 in terms of my favor. That leaves with 18 out of 25 points. I put that in B tier behind Ryback Firestorm. Alright, so there you have it. All 27 cars ranked. Here's my tier list. I have 6 on S, A, B, 5 on C, 3 on D, and the Lone Wolf on F. This time I am feeling a lot more legit that this tier list is more accurate to my taste than what I did back in 2023, reflecting my childhood and not playing as much before the Dice Roller Challenge happens. And I definitely believe that the Slipstream, along with these 5 other champions, really helped me beat the Dice Roller Challenge more often than the ones in the bottom over here, especially the Cobretti GT 500. So that is my tier list, everybody. I'm probably going to leave this unedited, but at the same time, I hope you guys find this useful. And this is where I began to retire this channel from YouTube, if you haven't read my message yet. So I hope you enjoyed all my content. I thank you all for sticking with me throughout these years. What was it, 9 years? 9 years on YouTube, ever since I released a Hot Wheels video when I was a teenager. Actually, more like a preteen. But anyways, this is it. I bid you all farewell, and I hope to see you sometime later on in life, if I do happen to return back onto YouTube for more interest in gaming and cars. But other than that, take care everybody. I'll see you next time.